Hi everyone, it's Jess again. Um, I don't really have much. I don't know how to start this one. Um, as my glasses are broke, my hair's unkept. Um, it's almost Christmas. Um, and I got some news a few weeks ago that my dad died on Thanksgiving Day. Um, and I guess really by getting that news, I mean, I looked it up and found his obituary like a week later. Um, the only reason I knew he was doing bad was because I got the message from my mom through my wife that he was in hospice for a week. In that message, she misgendered me and tried blaming my grandma for how she raised me. Um, but I read the obituary for my dad, and while I don't fully disagree with it, I also don't agree with it because it's leaving out a lot. Um, it says that, he was a kind person and that he kind of did everything, knew a lot, was kind of a jack of all trades sort of thing. And I don't disagree, but they're leaving out that he only helped people to help himself. Um, I maybe he helped others for the kindness, but there at least wasn't any reason to do it without something he would get later. He drove to New Mexico for a cup of coffee, which was just sex. He drove out there for sex. Um, he he was he told me about it all the time. This man would he had porn on his computer all the time. And he had the computer that had like 7 monitors, and each one had a slideshow of a different naked woman at a time going through ever since like the age of 8 or 9. I can remember his phone background was different naked women. Um, and that's just what I got used to. I was forced to just grow up with that. There were a handful of times. I know when he did have a house, he wouldn't close the door when he used the bathroom, and my room was right across, so anytime I walked out, I would just see it. Um, when he lived in the shed, I remember going out there once I can't remember if it was to ask for food or, to be like, hey, can we do something? Pretty sure it was for food. Um, but I remember opening the first door and then closing it and going up to the second one. And looking through the little like doorknob hole because there wasn't a door handle on it. And usually he was like sleeping because it was like a bedroom, living room for like 2 people. So I didn't like want to walk in, and if he's sleeping, I don't want to wake him up. Um, but with the first door being a super heavy door that's super loud, I figure if you don't hear that, you're probably asleep. And if you do hear, like, you know, you should hear it. Because he made it very apparent that he always hears that door when it gets opened, no matter what. But I look through that like door hole and I see him masturbating. Um, and I just left. And I don't know if I ever went back into that shed again to ask him anything. At least not alone. Not without him knowing I was going out there. Not without like a text or like some form of communication. He, whenever, so when I moved away, he only came to visit me once in that entire time. And that it's been like 9 years since I moved away. So I visited him many a time, usually once, twice a year at least, but whenever I could. Um, but he, in that entire time, came out to see me once, and it was for a work trip. Um, I think it was on the way back. He stopped by where we were living and said, and wanted to go to a bar. And so we went to a bar and we had some drinks, and then he went home. Um, and he was trying to plan another one this either this year or next year. I think it was this year, to do the same thing. Go to a bar, go to a brewery. I, there is one thing that my dad requested of me back when he was actually being my dad and not just a guy in my life. Back when he was trying. Um, and that was to make sure that there was a flag on his grave. And I always kind of wondered why, but I also knew why with what I grew up in. He didn't trust the government to honor his service, to do the bare minimum for him. And that was very apparent by who he was. And just by how this country is, the government doesn't take care of the people they should. And while I don't really care for the man, he would still be alive today if we had better health care, at minimum, for our veterans, but for sure for everyone. If he had better mental health care when he got back, he'd probably still be alive. If he would have had health care when he got back to actually, take care of himself and not have to deal with whatever he was dealing with, he'd probably still be alive. If he didn't live in a shed and could have maybe found some housing, he maybe'd still be alive. But also, it's not just on the government either. He made his own choices. He was choosing to pee in bottles. He was choosing to drink that alcohol. I can't make choices for anyone. But I can give information and hope that everyone can try and make the right ones for themselves. I know that I didn't go to his visitation. I never saw him. I never spoke to him. I got a call from hospice shortly after I got a message from my mom. through my wife, asking if I wanted to say anything to him. I gave him some final words from his favorite poem. Um, yes, I can. Um, it was "Don't Go Gentle Into That Good Night" by Dylan Thomas. And that was his favorite poem. He would quote it to us all the time, every time someone died. And the day that all of this clears up, whenever I get around to it, there will be a flag on his grave. I will make sure of it. I owe him that as a veteran, but I owe him nothing as my father. And to anyone else, MAGA or otherwise, going through this with their kid or other relatives, this is going to be what is going in store for you. If you don't start figuring out your life and atoning for what you've done, and in some people's eyes, you can't, and you're gonna have to live with that. That is your burden to bear. We all have our own sins. Some of us are just better at carrying them.